Well folks, the chess drama is never ending, and today we have what may be the biggest development yet, this Hans Niemann report by chess.com, where they basically just reveal everything they have on the guy to the general public, including the specific online games in which he cheated and the dates and their correspondence with him. So I'm just going to go through this. A lot of this has already been known, but there are some interesting revelations, so I'm going to talk about those. So we have this introduction here where they talk about how the vast majority of chess games do not contain cheating, but there are that unfortunate few, including Hans Niemann, and he cheated more than his public statements would lead you to believe. It says they were never pressured by Magnus or his team to remove Hans from the upcoming chess.com Global Championship, which is their first $1 million event, so it's pretty important to them. It says they uninvited Hans from the upcoming major online event and revoked his access to our site based on our experience with him in the past and growing suspicions among top players and our team about his rapid rise of play, the strange circumstances and explanations of his win over Magnus. So that was part of it, his questionable analysis after his game with Magnus. So it kind of looks like they took a bunch of factors into consideration. It was not one thing. So next is their mission. They feel like they're stewards of the game. They need to protect the game because there's so many people playing on their site, 100 million members. We hope this report will clear up some confusion. Okay, so next is the timeline of events. Most of this we already knew. September 4th, Hans Niemann defeats Magnus Carlsen with the black pieces, and then he gives that strange post-game interview where some of his analysis was called into question. Next day, Magnus tweets that he's withdrawing from the event. And on that same day, apparently, it says chess.com emails Hans privately to let him know that his account had been closed and that he could not play in the upcoming CGC event. It says a copy of this email is attached in Exhibit A. So then the next day is where Hans Niemann comes out and he admits to all his cheating. But does he really make a full confession? According to this report, he does not. He severely downplays how much he cheated. And he said he never cheated in a tournament with prize money. And he also attacked chess.com for uninviting him to the event based on nothing more than Magnus Carlsen's suspicion, and that all his online cheating had already been known about for several years. Okay, and then it looks like 2 days later, chess.com sends him a letter talking about why they decided to uninvite him from the event. And this is in Exhibit B. So let's go ahead and look at this letter real quick. Exhibit B. Okay, so here's the letter they sent to Hans after he went after them. Basically, they said that his confession was not complete and that he only cheated when he was 12 and 16. It says this directly contradicts our statistical evidence, as well as Hans Niemann's own prior admissions. So he pretty much contradicted himself, they're saying. Okay, so then they go into some of the specific dates in which they believe he cheated. They say here that he would receive a direct monetary benefit from a top standing prize position in those events would earn you. The rating points gained were significantly beneficial to you. Okay, they go into some more instances where he cheated as late as August 2020. At this time, Hans Niemann would have been 17 years old. So saying that he was only 16 was not quite accurate there. And this part I thought was very interesting, talking about that there's strong statistical evidence that confirm each of these cases above, as well as clear toggling versus non-toggling evidence. Apparently chess.com can tell on their website when you open up a different window, like if you're opening up an engine window to receive assistance. I didn't realize they could do that, and I would bet this is how they're catching a lot of cheaters, unless they can just tell from his video stream somehow that he's minimizing the chess.com window, but I don't think so. I think it may be the case that they can tell directly through their website when you toggle to a different screen during the game. Maybe someone who knows more about computers than me can tell me. But it says where you perform much better while toggling to a different screen during your moves. Now I could see how this would make it statistically a lot easier to catch somebody. You're drastically narrowing down the moves that you have to look at. If there's only, let's say, 5 moves in a chess game where you're toggling to a different screen and every one of those 5 moves is a top computer move, if you're looking at only those key 5 moves in every game, let's say you look at 5 games and now you have 25 moves, every single one of those is, even if every single one of those 25 moves is in the top 3 chess engine moves, that would probably be enough statistical evidence to condemn you as a cheater. Otherwise, if they had to look at every move of the game, it would only be like maybe a 10% increase in chess engine moves. You'd have to look at a lot more games. So maybe this is how they're catching players who only cheat in a few games. Okay, so here they talk about finalizing the field for the upcoming CGC. And based on growing concern regarding ensuring fair play in Chess.com's first $1 million prize event, my team did a deep review of your past history and encouraged me to rethink my position of letting you to continue to play in prize events on Chess.com. It says too much was at stake given our ongoing suspicions and past violations. So it sounds like it's based on past violations plus ongoing suspicions. So if Hans Niemann was innocent of over-the-board cheating, I can kind of see his side of it, where he's saying, you know, I thought this was already settled 2 years ago, and now just because of some current suspicions of over-the-board cheating, which cannot be proven, you're banning me based on that. And it does seem like that's what Chess.com is doing. But I can see Chess.com's side of it too, because this is their first $1 million event, and with all this publicity around Hans Niemann, I mean, if this whole drama with Magnus Carlsen never came out, I could see how they might be able to sweep it under the rug. But now there's just too much publicity. They don't want their event to be tainted by all this public suspicion. Maybe they were even on the fence about letting him play, but then all this publicity just put him over the edge and say, no, we want to ensure the integrity of our event. So I can kind of see both sides. But anyway, let's get back to the main report. Okay, so part 3, they talk about the basis of their decision to remove Hans Niemann from Chess.com and withdraw his invitation, which we pretty much saw outlined in the letter to Hans Niemann from September 6th. Okay, it says, does Chess.com believe that Hans Niemann cheated in his September 4th over-the-board game with Magnus Carlsen? And more generally, do we believe that he's cheated in other over-the-board games? Here they say there is no direct evidence, but then they go on to say that certain aspects of the September 4 game were suspicious, and that Hans' explanation of his win post-event added to our suspicion. As to his over-the-board play more generally, in the later section we discuss what we believe are apparent anomalies in Hans' rise in over-the-board rating. He's the fastest rising top player in classical over-the-board chess in modern recorded history, and much later in life than his peers. Okay, so no direct evidence, but ongoing suspicions, like they said. And then they say if they were not certain that he cheated, why did they take steps to revoke his invitation? They had suspicions about Hans' play against Magnus, which was intensified by the public fallout from the event. So they were apparently affected by the publicity. They were concerned about the steep rise in his over-the-board rating. And then they asked, could we ensure the integrity of our tournament if he participates? So they're basically saying that their current decision was fueled by suspicion of things that do not have conclusive evidence. But I can't say I really blame them. They don't want there to be any questions about the integrity of their event, which there definitely would be if Hans Niemann was participating. Okay, then they say we realized that we needed to do a deeper dive on the allegations surrounding Hans. Then they go into his cheating on Chess.com in great detail. They give a little recap of his statements. Only when he was 12 years old, never with prize money, never when he was streaming, and then when he was 16 years old. And then they give a table that shows all the events that they believe he cheated based on their analysis. Over 100 games. Starting on July 7th, 2015, which was when he was 12 years old, and then the last one, August 11th, he was 17 years old. So it's hard to make the case here that there was only 2 separate cheating events, like he said there was in his interview. Even if you considered everything within a single year to be one event, you still, even by that criteria, what he said was not accurate, because you have 2015, then you have 2017, then you have 2020. This is, of course, if Chess.com's cheating detection is accurate and really is identifying cheating here. I think one of the most damning things that Hans Niemann said was that Chess.com has the best cheating detection software in the world. That was a blunder, because anytime they come out and say our software has detected that you've cheated, Hans Niemann would basically have to contradict what he said if he was to say that that wasn't accurate, unless he wants to go on record saying that the best cheating detection software in the world does not detect cheating effectively. Okay, I guess that would be the only way to get out of it. But if Hans Niemann ever wanted to come after them legally for releasing all this, I don't think the fact that he said that their cheating detection was the best in the world would help his case at all. So I think that was a blunder saying that. If he would have left that comment out, if he ever wanted to sue them for slander or whatever, then he could say, hey, I never cheated and their cheating detection software is faulty. But he basically helped make the case for him with that comment. So they say he's cheated in more than 100 online games, when he was already 17, and that he was streaming in 25 of those games. Okay, so we have some correspondence between Niemann and Danny Wrench. Danny says, we are open to you rejoining the title Tuesday and other prize events coming back, like starting in January. You'll be subject to proctoring, second field of vision camera during these events, but pretty much everyone is. Okay, so he has to be on camera, I guess. All right, so they're open to letting him play at this point. Then they go into how cheat detection works, comparing the player's moves to engine moves, focusing on key critical moves, looking at the player's past performance and known strength profile, and then the statistical significance of a strong performance, how likely is it if they're not cheating, things like that. And throughout this report, they quote Hans numerous times when he said that they have the best cheat detection in the world. They know how significant that comment was. Okay, then they got some quotes from some top players, how easy it would be to cheat even if you only use the computer for a few moves. You could drastically improve your rating. For example, Anand said that one little bit of information per game, like a yes or no answer about whether a sacrifice is sound, could be worth 150 rating points. He said that in 2014. Okay, so let's go down here to these tables. Oh, this was very interesting. They talked about all the GMs that had confessed to cheating on chess.com, including one that was rated 2640, which makes me wonder, how much can you narrow it down to which GM this was based on that rating? Because not everyone, as they go up or down in the ratings, is going to be at exactly every rating level. Like, you might jump from 2635 to 2645. You might not ever be at 2640. How many GMs have been at that rating within the past 10 years or whatever? You might be able to narrow that down. These lower ratings, maybe not so much. Oh wow, look at this, 2686. It'd be interesting for someone to go in and look at every top GM in the past, let's say 15 years, who was rated 2686 exactly. That's their FIDE ELO. So somebody should do that. Somebody's probably going to be trying to narrow down which GMs it was that confessed. These are confessed cheaters. They were confronted by chess.com and they confessed. And here's more. Wow. Look at all these. Now, I would think some of these guys would be getting kind of nervous because they just revealed everything they had on Hans Niemann. Look at all these, man. 2685, 2651. These are some strong players. These are well-known chess players, some of these people. I'd be getting a little nervous. Maybe at some point chess.com is going to say, okay, here's our new policy. You cheat on our site, we're just going to go public with it. Maybe they'll do that at some point going forward, but I don't think they'll go public with any of these guys' data unless they act like Hans Niemann and come out and publicly start attacking chess.com. I think that's what Hans Niemann did wrong. He went after chess.com saying that they were attacking him for no good reason based on suspicions, which was kind of true. You know, they didn't have any new data on him, but I think the fact that he misrepresented how much he cheated and then attacked chess.com, this is their way of defending themselves. So Hans Niemann would have done a lot better to just keep his mouth shut. He can't be having a great day today. Then they talk about a player that was in the top 100. Their ELO rating was nearly 2,700, and they cheated in an event of only 10 games in 2020, selectively using a chess engine, which chess.com was able to catch. And then they confronted this person, and they confessed. And this is Exhibit C. So we'll look at that in a minute. Let's keep going, though, and see what else they have here. Okay, now they talk about Hans over-the-board rise, the fastest rising top player in classical over-the-board chess in modern history. Okay, they have what they call a strength score. Between 2014 and 2022, based on their strength score, which is determined by how well their moves match up to the engines, I guess, Hans Niemann had the biggest increase from 67 to 90. Okay, so 2.66 points per year, which was more than anyone. I guess these are other young prodigies. Okay, here's some more. All right, then we have this one. This is the improvement in over-the-board strength from age 11 to age 19, 0.25. I don't know what that 0.25 means. But anyway, they're looking at their improvement from age 11 to early adulthood, and Hans Niemann has the biggest improvement in that time period. Next is Bobby Fischer. So you can see the difference between Hans Niemann and the next person on the list, Bobby Fischer, is a bigger difference than anyone else compared to each other, which is interesting. Is it proof of anything? I don't know. I'm not a statistician. I know anomalies do occur. At best, I would say that's circumstantial evidence. Okay, so they have a number of graphs here. This one is strength gained during the first 2.75 years after achieving 2465 ELO. So it looks like Hans Niemann is second, so he's not the top of that list. So here's the rating increase over time after achieving 2500 ELO. It looks like Hans Niemann is the fastest on this one because he's the pink line, yes. So he had the fastest increase in rating over anyone. These all look like modern players. I don't see Bobby Fischer or anybody on there. Probably because the ELO system wasn't in place. Yeah, I think Bobby Fischer never even had a rating of 2500. Because when they first started using the ELO system, I think he was up over 2700 already. But yeah, Hans Niemann's had a faster rise than any of these guys here. Ferrugia, Keimer, yeah, all these prodigies, even Carlsen. It's really remarkable. But, you know, somebody's got to be the fastest, and this pink line it's not that much faster than this brown line. Of course, this brown line drops off and goes down before going up. Okay, so I guess this red line here, Ferrugia would be the closest. So Niemann had a faster rise than Ferrugia. I don't know that any of this is statistically conclusive. And I don't think chess.com is even claiming that. They're just saying that it fuels their suspicions is all it does. There's some other charts here. So this is the exact time between achieving a 25 ELO and going over 2700 ELO. And Hans Niemann has the shortest time. It's this first gray bar here. Okay. Okay, so they look at this in a bunch of different ways. I'm not going to go over each one of these graphs, but I'm guessing that Hans Niemann is beating the other players by most of these metrics. Niemann's down the list on this one, whatever this is. But yeah, I'm not going to look at all of these. What we know is that they have their suspicions based on his rapid rise. In this section they ask, has Hans played an unusually high number of near-perfect games? And they say he's actually lower down on the list when you look at numbers of near-perfect games. So they don't think that's compelling evidence at all. See, the blue one is Hans Niemann in his number of near-perfect games. So they kind of debunk that theory. There's a lot of that going around online that he's played a lot of near-perfect games. But apparently chess.com doesn't think that that's very compelling evidence. Then they talk about the game with Magnus Carlsen. They talk about the position that Hans Niemann said he had miraculously prepared for before the game. You know, there's a lot of speculation about how likely that was, since he did, I guess, end up in a position that had never been seen before in a Magnus Carlsen game. But Hans Niemann himself said that was miraculous, so, you know, unlikely things can happen, I don't know. But here they talk about some of his analysis that was highly questionable. This move, queen to h4, that was a move that just hung the bishop that Hans Niemann was asking if it was a good. He wanted to see the computer evaluation of that move, like he was unsure whether it was good or not. And they say this analysis and dependence on the engine seemed to be at odds with the level of preparation that Hans claimed was at play in the game and level of analysis needed to defeat the world champion. So yeah, there was definitely some moves that he suggested in his post-game analysis that made a lot of people think they were not listening to a 2700 rated GM. Then, okay, in their conclusion, they reiterate that Magnus Carlsen did not talk to them. Now, my theory is, though, it's very possible that Magnus Carlsen got some information from chess.com off the record. It would not surprise me at all, especially since they're buying, what is it, playmagnus.com? So he's obviously talking to a number of people at chess.com. It would not surprise me at all if one of them said, hey man, off the record, this Hans Niemann, he's done a lot of cheating online, we've had to ban him. It's also within the realm of possibility that Carlsen has the entire list of top players who have cheated online. Think about that. Maybe not likely, but there just needs to be one person at chess.com that has access to that information that wants to befriend Carlsen or impress him in some way. Say, hey man, I got the inside scoop, check this out. Especially since Carlsen said he couldn't talk about it. Maybe it's because the information that he was given was off the record. Chess.com is obviously going to deny it, but it is possible that he got some leaked information about Hans Niemann. So now we have their little outro. We believe Hans is an incredibly strong player and talented individual. Just reiterating what they already said. Hope to find a resolution where Hans can again participate on chess.com. I don't think that's going to happen for a while. Okay, and then just their exhibits at the end. I wanted to see that one where they were communicating with that top GM though, 2700 rated one. Which exhibit was that? Okay, so this looks like an email among the chess.com people. I was super confident in his cheater. Will officially go down as our highest rated ever. This is the 2700 guy. Okay. There's some part where they're communicating with him. Okay, so whoever this is says, I don't understand what this is all about. I've never violated any rule. Can somebody please explain? My name is very respected in the chess world. This is not acceptable. Unfortunately, we will not be discussing the exact details of our decision. Blah, blah, blah. There is some point where he confesses, though. Oh, if you choose to acknowledge any of the behaviors you feel might have resulted in your account being closed within the next 72 hours. I like how there's a time limit. It's like you have to confess within 3 days or it's over. The confession will not be accepted. Okay, I normally don't ever boast, but I must say I'm impressed with myself. This guy's 2700 plus. He's a monster. It's hard to imagine him cheating in a vacuum. Okay, this is another. Okay, yeah, congrats team. This is among the chess.com people. So they're sure that this guy. Okay, but where's the part where he confesses? Okay, here it is. I already wrote you in a previous email that I will fully cooperate. I used help in only a few games, not because I wanted to win a prize, but because I was bored and I just wanted to see how good is your team. Just testing you guys. Before that, I was sure that everybody is doing it. Now I see that your team is very serious and good. I want to apologize for my behavior and this will never happen again. I'm sorry for what I did and feel ashamed about the fact. Oh, wow. I was surprised that you catched me because I cheated in only 5 games. Okay, I'm going to assume this guy's first language is probably not English based on some of these words. Catched me. If you look at that rating list, who is the highest rated player on that list? You look at the exact rating, couple that with the fact that English is not his first language, somebody's going to narrow this down. I think someone's going to start to narrow this down. Okay, so I think that's all I wanted to look at. This is pretty much to the end of the report. Just some more email correspondence, but that was the most interesting part of it. So now that all this has come out, the question is, will this put the drama to rest? After all, there is now less to be speculated on. On the other hand, the US Championship is about to start, and Hans Niemann is scheduled to participate. Will there be heightened security? Will there be top players that refuse to play with Hans Niemann based on what came out in this report? It'll be interesting to see. We could have a whole new round of drama headed our way. But I think in the long run, this is something that was inevitably going to happen. As technology just enables cheaters to cheat more effectively every year, the protective measures are going to have to keep pace. And this is a reminder that we are obviously not doing enough to prevent over-the-board cheating. Because like I said in another video, if they made it virtually impossible to cheat over the board, none of this would be an issue. But it is not impossible, or at least people believe it is not impossible. So people have to at least believe it is near impossible. And that's a challenge. I don't know how they're going to make it impossible. Even if they stuck you in an electromagnetically sealed chamber, you could still have some device hidden on your body somewhere that you could, I mean, you could have stockfish loaded into that device. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to even go into how you could input the moves into that thing, because there's plenty of people already speculating on the different bodily locations. But anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. There will be more videos better than this one coming.